We are now at Matthew 24, part 15. Now we come to Matthew 24, verse 36. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. The parallel reading of this is Mark 13, verse 32. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father. The first thing that I think is most obvious to note from this is that the exact time of the destruction of Jerusalem, of the fulfillment of everything that Jesus was talking about, was kept hidden from them. Therefore, they had to watch and pray that they were not caught unawares. The fact that the historians record that all the Christians fled Jerusalem prior to its destruction means that they did observe the signs and the seasons, and they got out of the place before it went up in smoke. The second thing that I will comment on is, what are we to do with this statement from Jesus Christ that even he did not know of the day nor the hour? If Jesus is God, how could he not know all things? Now, the answer to this I believe to be somewhat straightforward, as if anything to do with the Almighty God can be expressed this way, but I'm going to try. We do need to grasp the fact that Jesus is God manifest in the flesh. Jesus was fully man, and in his humanity as the Son of Man, he was like us, sin accepted. Being like us, he did not know all things. However, Jesus was also fully God, not part of God, not a third of God, not a half of God, but fully God at the very same time. In his deity, he knows everything. God is omniscient. There is simply nothing that he doesn't know. There is a paradox presented to us in the person of Jesus Christ, the incarnation, God clothed in the flesh, and it is a great mystery. Actually, it's the supreme mystery, as Paul says in 1 Timothy 3, verse 16, and without controversy, without any argument whatsoever, great is the mystery of godliness. God was manifest in the flesh. From my own webpage shown here, under the heading, Who Do You Say Jesus Is?, I have included the following quote taken from I'm not sure who. It says this: "What strange and wonderful paradoxes there are in the life of Jesus. He who is the bread of life began his ministry hungry. He who is the water of life ended his ministry thirsty. He who fainteth not, neither is weary, was weary, and sat thus at the well. He paid tribute, yet he is the king. He was called a devil, yet he cast out devils. He prayed, and yet he hears and answers our prayers." The shortest verse in the Bible tells us, quote, Jesus wept, end quote, yet the Bible tells us he dries all our tears. He was sold for 30 pieces of silver, and yet he redeemed Israel. He is led as a lamb to the slaughter, and yet it is revealed that he is the good shepherd who gives his life for the sheep. He died, and in dying he gives life, and by dying he destroyed death. In Benson's commentary we read, "For Christ may be considered in two respects, in his human and divine nature, and what is said with regard only to the former doth not at all affect the latter. As he was the great teacher and revealer of his Father's will, he might know more than the angels, and yet he might not know all things. It is said in Luke 2, verse 52, that Jesus increased in wisdom and stature and in favour with God and man. He increased in wisdom, and consequently in his human nature he was not omniscient. In his human nature he was the Song of Solomon of David. In his divine nature he was the Lord of David. In his human nature he was upon earth. In his divine nature he was in heaven." John 3, verse 13, even while upon earth. So the explanation is that when Jesus said, "But of the day and the hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father," he was speaking in his humanity, being like us. Matthew 24, verse 37, "But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. These verses and others that are similar are regarded by futurists as core rapture proof texts that prove that in the future God is going to rapture his church, meaning God is going to take the church off planet Earth into heaven and leave behind the wicked to suffer. This is simply ridiculous. This has got nothing to do with an imagined rapture. It's not even remotely connected with such an idea. Still considering things from the perspective of a person who believes in the rapture, we note that Jesus plainly states that as the days of Noah were, so it would be with the coming of the Son of Man. They knew not until the flood came and took them all away, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. To understand this, we have to understand what happened in the days of Noah. And so now we read from Genesis 7 verse 23, and every living substance was destroyed which was upon the face of the ground, both man and cattle and the creeping things and the fowl of the heaven, and they were destroyed from the earth, and Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark. So who was taken away and who was left behind? It's a pillar of the rapture theory that the righteous get taken away and the wicked are left behind, but the Bible teaches the reverse of this. Who are we going to believe? Matthew 24 verse 39, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. And then in Genesis 7 verse 23, Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark. It is clear that the wicked were taken away, and Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him. It is the wicked who get taken away. It is the righteous who remain. Matthew 24 verse 40, then shall two be in the field, the one shall be taken and the other left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill, the one shall be taken and the other left. Watch therefore, for ye know not what hour your Lord cometh. But know this, that if the goodman of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Firstly, the context of all of this is that his disciples, his followers, would not be caught off guard. They had to be watchful. They did not know the day nor the hour, but they would know the signs of the impending destruction of that nation, and they were expected to be aware of this. The wicked would be taken away. There's no doubt about it. The Lord was going to miserably destroy those wicked husbandmen, and the righteous, if they were to remain, then they had to be watchful. They had to watch and pray. And one of the things that they had to do was flee when they saw the Roman armies come, the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet. In Joseph Benson's commentary of the Old and New Testaments concerning then shall two be in the field, the author proffers the following explanation, which is also valid. He says, that is, Providence will then make a distinction between such as are not at all distinguished now. Some shall be rescued from the destruction of Jerusalem, like Lot out of the burning Sodom, while others, nowise different in outward circumstances, shall be left to perish in it. In the case of the Jews, some, in fact many, were going to be killed, but others would be left alive. They were still going to be taken away, led away captive into all nations, but why one was killed and the other left alive would be known only to God himself. We might liken this to a situation where a cyclone or a wildfire comes through a town or a neighborhood. One house may be destroyed and the other standing next to it is preserved. One family, one man may be killed, the other left alive. To this, I'll add another thought. In verse 40, we have two in the field. In verse 41, we have two women grinding at the mill. And I will add the fact that we are talking about two women grinding at the mill is also another clear indication that this is not talking about a situation in the 21st century. This is clear. Be that as it may, in both situations, we have people working for a living. On the outside, they looked the same. Inwardly, they were different. In this sense, we might understand these verses as relating to the fact that the Lord would preserve his people, the saved, the elect, and the others, being the body of Jews that rejected Jesus Christ, would be taken away. Either they would be killed or led away captive into all nations. One aspect of rapture theology is that it is absolutely necessary for the saints, the church, to be taken away into heaven before great tribulation starts here on earth, because if they were not taken away, then God's church would suffer and be killed right alongside of the unsaved. Now, this understanding is completely ridiculous. It's not found in the Bible. The Lord never takes his people out of tribulation, but he takes them through tribulation, even through the greatest tribulation. While Egypt was wiped out in the 10 plagues, nothing touched the children of Israel who were living next door. How can this be? Well, the answer is simple. 2 Peter 2 verse 9. The Lord knoweth how to deliver the godly out of temptations, and to reserve the unjust unto the day of judgment to be punished. Wonderful. 2 Timothy 2 verse 19. Nevertheless, the foundation of God standeth sure, having this seal, the Lord knoweth them that are his. And as we read in Isaiah 43 verse 2, when thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee. Not over the waters, not under the waters, but when thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee, and through the rivers they shall not overflow thee. When thou walkest through the fire, that's great tribulation, thou shalt not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon thee. Praise ye the Lord. Matthew 24 verse 44. Therefore be ye also ready, for in such an hour as ye think not, the Son of Man cometh. Who then is a faithful and wise servant, whom his Lord hath made ruler over his household, to give them meat in due season? Blessed is that servant, whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing. Verily I say unto you, then he shall make him ruler over all his goods. And if that evil servant shall say in his heart, My Lord delayeth his coming, and shall begin to smite his fellow servants, and to eat and drink with the drunken, the Lord of that servant shall come in a day when he looketh not for him, and in an hour that he is not aware of, and shall cut him asunder, and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. These closing verses are an exhortation to the disciples of Jesus and those that would follow afterwards to watch and pray, to be ready. Back in verse 13, Jesus said, He that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. Several decades would pass between the utterance of these words and their fulfillment. Some would be tempted to say in their heart that my Lord delays his coming. All things continue as they always have done, and this would lean their hearts away from faithful service toward wickedness, toward sinful behavior, eventually leading those servants of the Lord to suffer the same portion with the hypocrites, to be caught up in the final and mighty conflagration that would befall Judea, Jerusalem, the temple, and its inhabitants. That brings me to the end of Matthew 24 itself, but not to the end of this series. There's still a lot more to follow, so please continue on to the next parts.